6 p.m. in Gomgam in the Mezam Division, Northwest region of Cameroon. Same time right here in Akwa Douala. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. Our major stories tonight: traders in Buea caught in difficult situation as a local council is sealing shops for obeying the Separatist imposed lockdown. The council has vowed to take severe measures against businesses that are closed. Reacting to the incident, business owners claim that they are not complying with the lockdown phenomenon but are prioritizing the safety of their stores and also themselves and equally their families due to threats from the Separatist fighters. Away from that, Cameroon is grappling with a staggering surge in cardiovascular diseases, particularly hypertension, with cases doubling in recent years and prevalence rates skyrocketing from 15% to 30%. Cardiologists attribute this alarming trend to low awareness rates, with most heart diseases being diagnosed at a chronic stage. Those are major stories tonight. Stay with us for the news in full. Thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe Television for presentation. I am Immaculate Fogwe. The Buea Council has sealed several shops in the town. The reason is that these business places refuse to open their doors during this lockdown period. The move, which aims at bringing back life to the relatively dead town, was one of the proposals raised during an enlarged meeting with regional authorities at the governor's office on Tuesday. Businessmen say they do not close the shops because they are complying with the propagators of the ghost town phenomenon, but because of their own safety and that of their families, as Rex Afona, Buea-based correspondent, tells us.
The mayor of Buea has resorted to using the hard way, like he said he would. His stores refuse to open their doors as the town is battling with the ongoing ghost town.
We'll be appealing to those who operate businesses within our municipality to do well, to come out and open their business places. If not, we'll be forced to go the hard way.
The reason for this action is that the local population has to be served at all times.
When you close your business premise, you don't think of your neighbor who might. If you are selling medication, say you are a pharmacy and you close and the neighbor or another person is sick, where will the person get medications from? So another issue is that, some people and most of our population live from hand to mouth. When you close shops around where they live and they have to, with the little they have, pay taxes and go far off what they might have used to buy what they will prepare for their kids, we are adding suffering and hardship onto our own selves.
Shop owners say they do not open not because they don't want to, but because it is not safe for them.
Yeah, because me are far from my shop, so
I live far from my shop. To leave from the quarter where I live and come to my shop is very risky for me. If I leave the house and anything happens to me, it's my family that will suffer the consequences. It's for my safety. We must be alive first.
My safety, my life first, before anything.
After the sealing of several shops in Moriko and Bunduma, many others were forced to open on Wednesday. But the town of Buea is still relatively less busy than it used to be.
Still talking on the Anglophone crisis, while some Cameroonians celebrate the arrest of 2 separatist leaders in Minnesota, United States of America, as a sign of progress in the resolution of the Anglophone crisis, others see it as an action in the wrong direction that will not yield the expected results. Our reporter, Babla Jonathan, spoke to some of them and compiled their thoughts and analysis in the following report.
As the close to a decade-long armed conflict continue raging in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, the arrest of 2 leaders of the former Southern Cameroon's independence movement in the United States is seen as a step forward towards the end of hostilities. Naturalized U.S. citizens Benedict Nwanakwa and Pascal Kikishi Wongbi were charged with organizing, financing, and directing kidnappings, bombings, and killings in their native country, Cameroon.
It's very significant because these individuals were responsible for the deaths of thousands of innocent Cameroonians and hundreds of our soldiers. Their arrests, in addition to the 30 other arrests which my law firm has assisted to obtain, shows that there is a strong judicial collaboration between the United States and Cameroon. And it shows also that there is no place for international terrorism in the world today.
Philip Nanga is one of the civil society leaders in the country who have been vocal on the Anglophone problem, condemning violence from both the pro-independence fighters and the army.
Nous avons toujours condamné les actes de violence.
But he says arresting those suspected or found guilty of involvement in the conflict is not the solution. He substantiates this argument with the point that
le conflit dans le nord-ouest du sud-ouest n'est pas né du financement.
The conflict did not emerge from financing or gun battles, but rather from socio-political problems that should be solved with political solutions.
Et donc il doit être traité politiquement pour avoir une solution durable.
And now we talk politics. Amidst growing calls for the opposition coalition ahead of the October 12, 2025 presidential election, a meeting between two major opposition candidates, that is, Professor Maurice Kamto and Buea Maigari, has ended in Yaoundé. Sources within the NUDP party revealed that the meeting centered on finalizing a winning alliance as demanded by the Cameroonian people. Fomi Armstrong Sanda reports.
On 26.
On the post-meeting communication without further details, Professor Maurice Kamto said he received at his residence presidential candidate Buea Maigari, accompanied by two of his aides. On the National Union for Democracy and Progress NUDP side, Barrister Roland Nia revealed that the meeting was aimed at finding a consensual candidate of the opposition ahead of the October 12, 2025 presidential election.
And in the days coming, we'll be able to know who is supposed to stand for the opposition, for the interest of peace, for the interest of development and progress. And those are the core issues that UNDP stands for.
He sees in a meeting an alliance capable of overthrowing the long-serving CPGM party regime, highly expected by the Cameroonian people, according to him.
We are aware Maurice Kamto has a large following in the cities like Douala, Yaoundé, Bafoussam, and Elite. That's why it's very necessary for the two major opposing parties, most major opposing forces to come together. Not leaving aside Issa Chiruma, who on the 10th of July met our national chairman to try to forge ahead how an alliance can be possible to oust this regime from power.
He prides in the NUDP party's program, which to him carries the salvation of Cameroon, especially to end the armed conflict in the northwest and southwest English-speaking regions of the country.
Bello has a concrete plan to end this crisis. It's therefore an inclusive dialogue and to allow the Anglophones to decide what type of state they want to operate. That is a welcome initiative.
The member of the NUDP party's National Council and the head of the party's federation in the Indian division of the Southwest region says they are ready to vote for any candidate eventually born out of a consensus with their national chairman, Buea Maigari.
Coming up, we take a look at how businesses are dealing with uncertainties that come with an election period, as is the case in Cameroon. Specifically, in the financial sector, banks and other institutions are taking a cautious approach due to sensitive political climate. To avoid completely stalling the economy, some of the institutions are nevertheless opting for less risky strategies. An update of the situation with Babila Jonathan.
Faced with political uncertainty during an election year, banking institutions in Cameroon are playing safe while granting loans.
We of the financial institution
especially us in CCC. We know we are dealing in a very sensitive sector, a sector that when it is touched, many things will happen, and our customer can be affected, and many other things can go wrong that will affect the economy of Cameroon.
Investors and entrepreneurs talk of a high degree of reluctance on the part of many financial institutions in recent months. This impasse could have a host of consequences on economic activities. In order to preserve the resilience of the financial system and keep the economy running, other banking institutions are conducting risk assessment.
Our principal activity is to manage risks. We are here to manage various types of risks. We anticipate some of these risks and we take appropriate action to address them. Usually, as our tradition in CCC is that each time an event is coming up, be it the presidential election, be it the end of the year, we always come up with some security tips that we share with our staff and our customers. And in this respect, we try to educate our staff on the issues or things that could happen.
Banking managers emphasize that in this socio-political context, even foreign investors are limiting their deposits and reducing their investment needs.
And in health, the number of patients suffering from various cardiovascular diseases, especially hypertension, in Cameroon has doubled, the prevalence rate increasing from 15% to 30%. This increase, according to cardiologists, is due to low awareness rates as most heart diseases are being taken to hospitals at the chronic stage. Limiting the number of cases is a focus of the Central African First Days of Rhythmology, Cardiac Stimulation and Hereditary Cardiac Diseases held by Cameroon Cardiac Society in Douala. Details with our health reporter, Ese Lucy Liengo.
Hypertension remains the leading cause of cardiac disease in Cameroon, with recent studies showing a prevalence close to 30%.
L'hypertension artérielle, par exemple, est passée de...
Hypertension has increased from 15 to 30%, meaning the number of people suffering from the disease has doubled. Others include cardiac arrest and valve heart disease.
Alors qu'il y a eu de gros progrès en termes de diagnostic.
This increase has been attributed to unhealthy eating patterns, lack of physical activity, and high consumption of alcoholic beverages.
In reality, there is a change in our lifestyle, and with people who smoke more and more, drink alcohol excessively, physical inactivity, and increase in weight, and I'm not going to forget stress.
Cardiovascular diseases, including heart failure and heart valve disease, affect both adolescents and adults in the country, posing a high risk of mortality. Cardiologists express concerns about the low rates of awareness, treatment, and control of these conditions.
It is increasing, and one of the major points is that people are not aware, and because they are not aware, they are not being treated. And at times, even when they are treated, they are not treated to the target.
Raising awareness about the fatal consequences of cardiovascular diseases in Cameroon was the primary objective of the workshop for Central Africa First Days of Rhythmology, Cardiac Stimulation and Hereditary Cardiac Diseases, organized by the Cameroon Cardiac Society.
We are meeting today to sensitize the population, but also to train general practitioners on how to diagnose these diseases, and to also train cardiologists on how to manage. We are also discussing some of the interventions that are already available in our environment, but that are unfortunately not accessible to every Cameroonian.
Maintaining a healthy lifestyle and visiting the hospital for medical checkups early is crucial for preventing cardiac diseases.
And now in our foreign news, Riek Machar, South Sudan's vice president, has been charged with murder, treason, and crimes against humanity. He has been suspended from his post by the president. And in other news, despite recent anti-Nigerian immigrant demonstrations in Ghana, President John Mahama has stated that the country will accept West African nationals under a regional agreement allowing visa-free travel, citing Ghana's prior agreement with the U.S. to accept deported West African migrants. And in the United States of America, authorities have arrested and identified the suspected killer of conservative activist Charlie Kirk on Wednesday at the Utah Valley University as 22-year-old Kyla Robinson. He was arrested today after someone close the suspect turned him in. We have greater details with our reporter, Innocent Aze.
South Sudan's first Vice President, Riek Machar, has been charged with murder, treason, and crimes against humanity for his alleged involvement in attacks by an ethnic militia against federal forces in March, hours after the announcement by the Justice Minister. President Salva Kiir, through a decree, suspended Machar from his post. The charges against Machar and his suspension escalated a feud between the country's two main political camps, the other led by Kiir, which faced off in a 2013-2018 civil war in which an estimated 400,000 people died. Machar has been under house arrest since March in connection with attacks by the White Army militia. International powers have repeatedly called for Machar's release, warning his detention could tip the country back into civil war. In recent weeks in Ghana, there has been sporadic anti-Nigerian protest in several cities where groups of demonstrators demanded their expulsion, blaming Nigerians for rising crime, prostitution and unfair economic competition. In late July, Nigeria sent a special envoy and his foreign ministry urged calm, while Ghanaian and Nigerian officials held talks to calm tensions. On Wednesday, President John Mahama said Ghana was accepting West Africans deported from the United States. He emphasized that Ghana had agreed to take in nationals from West Africa, where a regional agreement allows visa-free travel. He said a first batch of 14 people had come to Ghana, including several Nigerians who have since returned to their home countries, though he did not provide any timeline for when that occurred. Ghana has long been home to Nigerian immigrants. Elsewhere, U.S. President Donald Trump announced on a morning television show that the suspected killer of his ally, Charlie Kirk, conservative activist, may have been captured. He said in a statement, "I think with a high degree of certainty we have him. Essentially, someone that was very close to him turned him in." At a press conference Friday morning, officials identified the person in custody as 22-year-old Kyla Robinson. Kirk, 31, was shot in the neck from a rooftop. Authorities had promised to get the assassin.
And now we talk sports. A football consultant has urged the Cameroon Football Federation to organize competitions in areas where adequate security will be guaranteed for the match officials. Lawrence Kede was speaking to Equinoxe TV after Dangamundi and his assistants were beaten by angry supporters of Mintak FC during Day 5 match of the National Interpols against Kumba City FC. Smagic and Gabriel Sportsman has the details.
An ugly scenario at the CAF Excellence Center Field in Bankomo, Yaoundé, as a match day 5 encounter of the National Interpol pitting Mintak FC of Upper Sanaga to Kumba City FC from the Southwest region ended in chaos. The supporters of Mintak FC claimed that the central referee, Dangamundi, was blowing in favor of their opponents of the day, Kumba City FC. Before their violent interruption of the game, Dangamundi had given to Mintak FC alone 52 fouls, 9 yellow cards, 1 penalty, an imaginary free kick which led to the equalizer of Kumba City and 16 offsides, something that the supporters of Mintak FC couldn't hold again. As a result, the supporters who stormed the field gave snake beatings to the referees, tore their dresses, while one assistant referee was only whisked out of the field, seriously injured. Who is to be blamed for this barbaric act?
First of all, the organizers. When you play such a game, there are minimum requirements when we play a football game. Talking of security, I believe the security was not up to standards. Equally, we could talk of poor officiating. It's not the first time that this particular referee, Dangamundi, is being pointed fingers at. We have to blame equally clubs for not teaching their fans exactly the new stakes of football.
With referees injured as a result of unacceptable manner in which the central referee handled the game, what next?
The Discipline and Homologation Committee is going to sit down, and subsequently I believe Mintag will be heavily sanctioned because from the footages of the images we saw, whatever happened, you don't assault a referee physically. Fans didn't understand that you could do so many things, but not at that level. The officiating should be fair enough not to push fans to intervene on the pitch of play and render justice.
It is not the first time crowd trouble has been noted on our pitches in recent times. For now, Kumba City FC and Sable FC of Bate are sure to play in the semi-finals of the National Interpol from their pool, while waiting to hear from the Homologation and Disciplinary Committee of Fecafoot.
And that's it for this first part of the news. Talking Point comes up next. On the line in Buea is Dr. Agbor MEG, a human rights activist. Good evening. It's a pleasure to have you in Talking Point tonight. For close to 9 years now, there have been calls for school boycotts, especially during school reopening dates like this. What do you make of this recurrent situation which seems to have defiled all government attempts to quench it?
You know, like I do, that schools have started. I think the question is how effective the classes. I think every child in Cameroon would like to go to school because it is first their right to go to school. And I think every parent wants their child or children to go to school. But you know, like I do, that the level of insecurity is such that no parent is I will not say willing, will take the risk to raise their children. I think the bottom line will be that you would rather have a child who has not been to school than to have the child in the grave. So yeah, I feel really bad. I feel really bad for this, for our beautiful country, that things have gotten so bad. Even after 8 years, we cannot put an end to the insecurity. So how do I take of it? I feel bad. But again, I have to say, we have to step out of this mentality that education must only be in a formal setup classroom. I can remember during the COVID period, I think the ministers came up with this online training, online education. What has happened to it? What has happened to it? Those are the kinds of tools that we would have been using now, So all I can now say is that parents, let us, and civil society groups, let us get involved in establishing community-based learning centers so that when situations like this come up, we can still have our children going to school. I think we have come to a point in our country that we should know that education cannot only take place in the four walls of a formal institution. Even in the advanced countries today, most of the education is done online. So what has happened to the online education that our ministers had, made it a big do? We all admired it and so forth and so on. I have my children here at home. I told them I will not risk their lives, but I said, even get what is the program? What are the courses? What is the curriculum? Get the books from your seniors to ones who are going to class 4. Start copying the notes and reading the notes at home so that when the situation gets better and you go to school, I know your teachers at least will make sure they come up with catch-up classes. But before they do that, you will not be behind. That can close the gap.
Now, doctors, authorities in the southwest and northwest regions have repeatedly urged parents to send their children to school despite ongoing safety concerns. Is it that they are not prioritizing the security of these children? Because when we see them in other parts of the country or touring some of these areas, we see them in armored cars, but then they are asking parents to send their children to school without these armored cars or being secured by security officers. What can parents really do when confronted with such a situation, and how can they equally help support their children's education at home?
For crying out loud. It is not that they don't want to go to school. I feel really sorry for them. That's why I make it a duty to have them study at home. Now we have to change. We have to change, our strategies. By now, our nation would have known it was not only COVID that pushed us to online learning. We should know that the situation we are facing would have built on that online learning by now to sustain it, so that even when situations like this come up, we can still communicate with our children, not necessarily only in the formal structures. Parents should know that education now should not be left solely in the hands of teachers, that is the formal teachers. Parents should take up their responsibility. Even if you are not educated, you should look for a means, control your children, say what notes, and so forth, like I have done. I know they are all going to class 4. Before today, I anticipated this because the rumors were already. I said, go to those your friends who are going to class 5. Take their books, so that during this period, you can sit at home, copy their notes, and read through the notes, so that when the environment becomes enabling and you go to school, I know your teachers will organize catch-up class.
According to you, who has failed to effectively address the Anglophone crisis, which is nearing its 9-year mark with ongoing casualties, and what's the way out of these troubled waters?
My dear, it's so unfortunate. It's so frustrating. It's so limiting. But again, we have to keep going. I'm not going to sit here and say, and blame. I will say it is the responsibility of all of us. When I say all of us, I mean the government, I mean the traditional leaders, I mean civil society, and you and I. It is our responsibility. This is a fight that is in our community. What have we done? After 8 years, we cannot keep going around the same questions. We have heard answers, we have heard suggestions, and we are still getting worse. So it is all our responsibility. And all of us will have to step up the game and do the needful if we want a total stop to this. So, to the children who keep telling us, instructing us not to go to school, I can only plead with them that you may have a good cause, but when you use the wrong way to address a genuine cause, you become unpopular. You cannot profess to be protecting the interests of your own people and at the same time limiting them, especially your own peers, from going to school. Without education, you are nowhere. Without education, you cannot even communicate with the world. Without education, you cannot be in a position to manage whatever you finally maybe achieve or attain. So education should not be, don't use it to address your demands. I'm just pleading. And to us, people of the community, to parents, I'll just call upon us to continuously talk to these children because they are our children. We live with them in the community. They know us, we know them. So let's keep talking to them. Continuous education. Let's tell them that, yes, we know there is poor governance. We know there is joblessness. We know. But violence should not be the way to address or table our issues.
Dr. Agbor MEG speaking to us live from Buea. Thank you so much for your time. That's all for the cap to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for always staying with us. Have a wonderful weekend in the company of interesting programs on Equinoxe Television. Bye-bye for now.